so mad that he pulls out his pew-pew and he just blam shoots Susan. And then he shoots her again and again. And then he uses it on himself. Blam. And so how does this horrible murder eventually lead to The Incredibles getting made? Well, it all starts with this guy, Brad. And Brad's around 20 years old during this time, and he's got big dreams. He wants to create an animated movie that ends up being a classic. You know, like Snow White or Jungle Book. And so, in the late 70s, he starts going to college at Cal Arts, studying animation. A few years later, he finally graduates, and boom, he starts working as a screenwriter. But over the years, most of the movies he writes don't get made. But whatever, Brad's not gonna give up. And he works for years. And then, in 1989, Brad's around 32 years old now, something terrible happens that changes his life forever. See, Brad has a sister, this woman, Susan. And Susan's around 37, and she and Brad are really close. But, unfortunately, Susan is in a terrible marriage. And her husband's an absolute piece of shit. I mean, he's awful to her, he's abusive, and she's been trying to get out of this marriage for a while. So, from what I read, Susan and her husband are separated, or at least they're living in different places at this point. But one night, husband comes over to her house, probably to start some shit. And the two of them get into some kind of fight. And this fight gets really bad. And at some point, he gets so mad that he pulls out his pew-pew. And he just blam shoots Susan. And then he shoots her again and again. And then he uses it on himself. Blam. And they're both tragically unalived. And as you can imagine, this is devastating for Susan's whole family. And when Brad hears the news, it hits him hard. I mean, he is beyond depressed. He can't function, he stops working, he shuts down and goes into a daze. He's never had to deal with loss like this. This is the worst. And several years pass, and it's around 1996 now, and he's still coping with this loss. But one day, something changes. See, Brad has been working hard for years, and now he has a contract at Warner Brothers to possibly direct an animated movie. And the execs there, they tell him they have a lot of projects in development. Would you like to direct one of these? And one of those projects is based on a novel written in the 60s called The Iron Man. And it's a story about a big metal robot who becomes friends with a small boy. And so Brad's like, all right, let me read this Iron Man novel to see if I'm interested in this movie project. And so he reads it, and he immediately connects with the story, because he relates some of the themes in the book to